All right, everybody, we are back, and I am so honored and excited to have today's guest. So there's a part of human anatomy that nobody really talks about, especially in this industry or just the general public. And Dr. Evan Goldstein is the founder of Bespoke Surgical in New York. Yes. The leading practice sexual health and wellness for the gay community. Yes.
All assholes.
Okay, perfect.
But
awesome.
yes.
All assholes.
We learn a lot from the gays.
Yes, I love that. So we're going to talk about anal health, anal sex, all the things. I'm excited to learn all the things. So welcome to the Law of Cassidy, where we talk intimacy, business, power, healing, and the conversations most people are too uncomfortable to have. I am Cassidy, entrepreneur, wife, mom, and someone who spent nearly 2 decades in the intimacy and wellness space. If someone sent you this episode, you are in the right place. This is for the vain ones. Hi.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. So we have a little structure kind of, but I'm like just excited to just chat and learn all the things. So I like to do a little rapid fire.
Totally.
So the world can kind of know you. So coffee or like energy hype drink or neither? Neither.
Just energy.
You just have natural
That's
energy.
it.
You're thriving. I love that. Okay.
Coffee makes me shit.
It is true. When I can't poop, I'm like, yeah, give me.
Not in a good way.
Yeah.
For me.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Ooh. I'm a big Godfather fan.
Oh.
So like Godfather 2 out
Yeah.
of the series, but I would say that.
I love that. Okay. Now we're going to get into some random rapid fire about like your job. So most common question patients are too embarrassed to ask that they absolutely should be asking.
I think it's the right ways to engage anally.
Okay.
You know, and I think that's what's so cool about this conversation. I think people are just so coy with anal discussions in anything, you know, and they wind up coming to me when it's a little bit too late or they're injured. And then I have to kind of like, how do we fix it to reset the stage, etc. So, talk about ass. It's fine.
Biggest myth about anal you hear constantly?
Is that it's okay that it's painful. You know, people think anal sex is painful.
If you do it right, it's not.
And it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You know, look, there's plenty of people that want kink with pain, and that's totally cool. But the reality is, like, it should not be painful. There should not be bleeding, right?
Yeah.
And so those misconceptions of really kind of allowing people to understand who they are, like their own anatomy, how is it connected neurologically and psychosocially, right? Mentally.
Yeah.
And then allowing them to plot the right course to allow them fruitful sex.
Yeah.
Because so many people have a terrible first experience and then they're like, oh, not for me. But think about how many people are missing out, partners your own, with anal play if it's done correctly.
Yeah. Okay. Most dangerous thing people do thinking it's fine.
I think people just like spit and shove it in. Oh. I mean, that's like, you know, people are just like, oh yeah, you know, I think, you know, the vaginal side is self-lubricating and it takes a little bit more, though you shouldn't do that either.
It makes me cringe. We were out on not Bourbon Street. Why did I say Bourbon? We were out on Broadway doing content and I was just asking questions. And this guy was like, what's your favorite lube? And he's like, I love to just spit and slap. And I was like,
I know. Look, spit is better than no lube.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, again, it's like I look at what I do as a risk reduction guy.
It's kind of like an insurance policy for your butthole.
Yeah. It's like there's so many things that people want to do. And if you want to do it, go fucking do it.
Yeah.
But I'm the guy that's like, okay, these are the things that could go wrong. How do you kind of do this and this? And how do you understand if anally you can do that?
Yeah.
Mentally, people are like, I want to get into fisting. But physically, they're never going to get into it. Or I may need to do surgery or anal Botox or something to allow people to get to where they need to be. Everyone's got big eyes. And especially with the ass, it's like, oh yeah, just slap it on there and shove it on in, especially in Nashville. It's like, hold on a second. And especially in women, one of the things is the skin is so thin in females.
It's different.
And
Okay.
we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Where we think about with like when giving birth, why does the skin split so easily for babies, right? The episiotomy component. It's the tendency that whoever created us knew that it needed to happen. Right. So they made the skin thinner that it could split easily. Well, what happens with anal? It's all about that. So if you don't work with the skin, so there's lots that I don't think people know.
No.
And then it's like, how do we just educate so that you can take it up the ass when you want?
I've been in the industry for 20 years and I did not know that females was thinner.
Totally.
Than
and
males.
the pelvis is so different than the male pelvis because it needs the elasticity. So like anal Botox, I don't do a lot in women because women don't need it or to that degree because the pelvic floor is able to open for child rearing. So it has the capacity to open, whereas the skin is the main issues. And it's interesting when I see male to female, the transition, they're taking estrogens and progesterones. They tremendously have anal fissures, which are those tears, because they have a male pelvis, which is tight, and now female skin, which is now softer and easier to split, and they wind up having issues.
Okay, that makes sense.
So
yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
I'm gonna learn.
I'm
I'm gonna learn so much today. Okay, what do you wish medical schools taught that they don't?
All of this. I think it's just first being able to have a conversation, you know, like being able to ask people who they are, where they are, what do they want to do from a sexual perspective. You know, it's not difficult questions, you know, but it's how do you just have the narrative? Because if you're having the conversation, it'll lead people to the next step of like, how do we just get this person help? I always say, you don't need to know the solutions, but you need to know the people that do know the solution. And I did a study early on in my career that said 92% of gay physicians do not ask gay clients about their gay sex.
That's wild.
Crazy. So you think of those numbers and you're like, how do we just, I can't talk about anal yet. I just actually have to first have the conversation of like, well, let's just talk about sex in general and feel comfortable doing it and then slowly get into good butt stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to start with some anal health 101.
Yeah.
So let's start with the anatomy because most people have no understanding of how the anal canal actually works. So can you like walk us through that?
I think the best way to first think of it is like, let's talk about the pooping mechanism because I think that'll help people understand how the ass works. So shit is higher up in what's called the sigmoid colon. So it's a little bit high up and there's like a bend that goes into what's called the rectum and then the muscle that leads out to the outside. So think of like when most people poop in the morning. Well, why? Well, what happens is when you stand up, you're changing your pelvic angle. When you change your pelvic angle and you're brushing your teeth, what happens is that stool that was in the colon moves to the rectum.
Okay.
You now sense it. So brushing teeth, coffee, cigarette, whatever, you're like, oh, I need to go poop. Well, what happens is the stool goes into the rectum and there are 3 sets of muscles in everybody's asses. So if everybody that's listening squeezes their asshole, everybody squeeze. Are you squeezing, Casey? Okay. So there are 3 sets. You're only squeezing the first 2. So the first 2 are what's called external and superficial. The third one, which is called the involuntary, that's the one that is, it doesn't really listen to you or I. That's the one that keeps shut all day so you don't poop on the street, right? It's constantly closed. But when the stool moves into the rectum, that third muscle gets tickled and it senses the stool there. So it relaxes.
Okay.
Now, you're squeezing the other 2. That's why it doesn't come out. But when you go to the restroom and you sit on the bowl, you relax the other 2 muscles, and now you're able to poop. So the mechanism of anal is, now think of the opposite, right?
Yeah.
So we're going from the other way. So we need to get the first 2 muscles to open to then hit that third muscle.
Yeah.
Once you hit that third muscle, now you're telling that third muscle to start relaxing and opening.
Yeah.
Right. So I think when people come to my office, it's trying to figure out, well, what type of pelvis do they have? It's skin and it's muscle. That's it. And then it's how is it connected? So those three sets of muscles, they need to open. It needs to relax, right? There are three types of assholes in the world.
Only three.
Only three.
Okay.
And we did a study at Bespoke Surgical, my practice in the city, and we do what's called anal manometry, which is we measure the pressures of people coming to me. And there's group 1, which is they're actually the best bottoms in the world. They can bottom. Those are the people that no matter what, they can relax those three muscles. They can open their pelvic floor. Their skin is tough and they're able to engage from day one. Now, that's about a third of people. 2/3 are in group 2 and group 3. Group 2 is kind of the, like what my kids do, that like 6-7 thing.
Yeah, my daughter does that
too.
too.
Right. So it works-ish sometimes, 50-60% of the time. You're able to get some relaxation. Whereas group 3, in a book I wrote called But Seriously, group 3, we named anal nopus, which is like, that shit is not happening because they're just too tight and they just can't relax. So I think a lot of what we do is to first figure out, well, what type of pelvis are you? And then, well, what are the ramifications of that? So a lot of work we do in the beginning, especially people that can't come and see me in New York, is like anal toys. How do you use dilators? How do you start super slow? How do you do only yourself? So self-play. Like, how do you learn which type of pelvis you are? How are you connected? And how do you feel, right? Starting with the smallest and the easiest. I like glass dilators. Glass picks up every type of lube. It's also weighted in a way that opens the muscle. Problem is, a lot of products that are out there now, they're too soft.
Yeah.
So especially in the male pelvis, when you're trying to expand, think of a rubber band that's just too tight. If you're putting something too soft in there, you won't get the expansion. So you really need to think of, how do you get that to open up? And those three muscles that are not in unison, they don't work in unison. You're now training your body to get them to work in unison. That group 1 we spoke about, they can do it automatically.
Yeah.
And I say, think about going to the gym. One day you're doing biceps. The next day you're doing triceps to stretch the bicep. When does anyone ever stretch their pelvic floor? When does anyone stretch their asshole? They don't. So 99.9% of the day, your entire ass is contracted. Then you go to the gym and Peloton, and then you contract even more. And now you're asking me, well, why do I keep getting tears or hemorrhoids? It's all about, how do we relax the pressure in that space? And it just takes time and understanding the mechanism of the muscle and the skin. And then how is it connected to you?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I'm like mind blown over here. And I'm a TMI person. I don't care. The whole world knows this. But I've had my fair share of fun with hemorrhoids after having my daughter. I've actually had to have one surgically removed.
Totally. Which is super common.
Like size of a clementine externally.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
And so mine flare up with stress. They flare up if I'm not getting the proper fiber.
Yeah.
Because there's so much pressure from almost like a constipation type of a dynamic.
Yeah.
So do you even dabble in this type of education to help people with anal sex?
Totally.
Yeah. So
I mean, I think it's a combination of, first off, just how do you poop correctly, right?
Yeah.
Now, post-pregnancy hemorrhoids and skin tags are really, really common. Remember, we spoke of the pelvic floor just being able to expand for childbirth, so it doesn't have the stability. So what happens is, especially most women get a skin tag or a hemorrhoid anterior, which is to the front, which is more to the vaginal side. The male pelvis has the prostate. Because it has the prostate, it has architecture that keeps everything in place.
yeah.
Because the prostate is not there, there's literally a flimsy wall between the vaginal side and the anal side, which really helps for anal sex, right? Because translational pressures cause people posterior clitoris, amazing stimulation. But what happens is, it falls out. A lot of the pelvic stuff can fall out, hemorrhoids, skin tags, etc.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of work with people. One is you first have, if it's fucking with you, if you're bleeding, you don't feel sexy,
So uncomfortable.
you can't wear the clothes you want, you're like, you can't be clean, then we should just get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
Remove the tag, remove the hemorrhoid, and so that we can kind of make it aesthetically what you want and then functionally allow people to get to where they want to. There are many people that have hemorrhoids, straight, gay, women, men, that it doesn't fuck with them, that they are able to have sex and their partners don't care and they don't care how it looks and they think it looks amazing and they're having the greatest sex. Go on.
Yeah.
If you have a hemorrhoid and you don't know, then I think that's where the toy stuff comes into play, which is like, don't just let somebody get behind you and go crazy.
No.
Start easy. Start to see if by doing this, does it fuck with the hemorrhoid?
Yeah.
It may. A lot of the bigger hemorrhoids, think of it like it gets pushed in and pushed out with sex. So then it swells. Or people are douching and they're cleaning for anal sex and it causes the hemorrhoids to swell. And then they're like already irritated before they even have sex.
Yeah.
And then they're wondering like, well, shit, sex is painful. Well, these are the reasons. So it's multifactorial, but I think if you have hemorrhoids or tags and it's not fucking with you, anal can for sure be something that is fine.
Yeah.
It may actually even help if the muscles are the culprit. Many people, especially guys, get hemorrhoids because they're sitting on the bowl for too long. They're super constipated.
Yeah.
Their muscles are so tight that it creates that. So how do we get that into a relaxed space? So all you straight fuckers,
Yeah, it's so
take
true.
it up the ass.
I tell them all the time, I'm like, you don't know what you're missing. They really
Totally,
don't. And
they
they're
don't.
just so, and that's something that I absolutely hate because I get a lot of traction when I talk about, and I get a lot of questions in my DMs about anal sex and like all the things. And it's so funny how I just think they're insecure men literally comment and they're like, oh, I'm straight. I'm not. And I'm like, it has nothing to do with sexuality.
Totally.
It has nothing to do with that. And it's just
Totally.
wild to me because I'm like, how about we be a little open-minded? I mean, you know, like, yeah. Okay.
But once you tickle their prostate or you start to do it, and I think, again, like, just start with what you feel comfortable with. You know, it could be external play. It could be easy stuff. It doesn't need to be full penetration, you know. But once you get the prostate or that A spot, P spot stimulated one time in somebody, they've never had an orgasm like that. Never. To the point where they're like, fuck. So, like, you know, you got to be open-minded. But there's so much internalized components between how you were raised, you know, race, culturally. It's not in our lifetime are we going to solve all those problems.
Yeah, no one would. Okay, so what does a healthy anal canal look like?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that depends on what other people, what you think, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I had this one guy who had this huge skin tag that was hanging off, and I was like, God, do you want me to get rid of that? And he's like, no, my husband loves to eat it and flick at it and play with it. So I'm like,
okay, man,
okay,
whatever
works. I think a healthy is, there really aren't, you know, hemorrhoids are a misnomer. We all have hemorrhoids. Symptomatic hemorrhoids, swollen, bleeding, blocking, that's different. So when I'm looking in there, it should be pink, it should be healthy, there should be no extra tissue, no extra skin sticking out, there should be no hemorrhoids that are swollen in the space, there should be no warts, no herpes, and all those things that are there. When people come to the office, we do an exam called an anoscopy, where I'm looking about this far in, and I could see through a camera where I can inspect how does the rectum look. I ask people to squeeze, relax, push the pelvic floor out. Are things prolapsing? What are what are their hemorrhoids? We grade them 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's lots of things, but the reality is, if you're not bleeding, you're shitting correctly, it looks the way you want to, and you're able to engage, for the most part, it's healthy.
Okay.
Right? But I usually say if you're engaging anally, most people come through the office once a year where we take a look because we want people to bottom for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So just like women, it's so attuned to going to the gynecologist. Realistically, if you're engaging anally, or orally or vaginally. Like everyone once a year should be going to the dentist to say, hey, I suck good dick. Let's look, right? Or, hey, I'm taking it up anally. Like, because there's so many things that are silent issues that if we normalize the conversations and we normalize the visits, we can make sure that people are minimized, especially HPV, cancers, throat cancers, anal cancers, vaginal. There's so many things out there from a sexual preventative perspective. I just don't think people know about it.
That was going to be my next question is like, have there been dynamics in your practice where you've done, where you're just checking on people and you've been able to find stuff early and help them in the right direction and possibly save their lives?
Yeah. I mean, I think, first of all, there's so many STDs that are silent where so many people are carriers. And when you look at the mainstay, especially in the gay space, most people are on PrEP for anti-HIV. And then they're doing this thing called DoxyPEP, which is 2 doxycyclines, so 100 milligrams, so 200 milligrams within 72 hours of a high-risk hookup. And it decreases the risk of STDs by almost 60-70%, chlamydia and syphilis, not so much gonorrhea. So it's a huge push. But the problem is then people think you're invincible of, oh, hey, I'm not going to get HIV and I'm not going to get STDs. And many practitioners do not test correctly. So they'll just do a blood test. But the reality is we are oral, anal people, right? So you have to swab anally. You have to swab orally. You have to check urine. You have to do all these things that most people aren't doing. So at least through coming through an office like ours, we make sure that you really are, because chlamydia for many people are asymptomatic carriers. Now think about how many people go out there and do their thing and passing it from person to person. So one is, I think, people being educated and knowing what they should be advocating for themselves. What are they going to the doctors? Your doctors, unfortunately, are not going to know.
No.
So you have to be your own pioneer here of saying, hey, this is what I want. Also, anal cancers. HPV is a huge issue. HPV vaccines, everybody should be getting them up to the age of 45. I even think older. And it's not only girls, it's guys. Everybody should be getting it. With that being said, by doing anal pap smears, you're able to offset the risk and understanding, are people going towards, similar to how women have cervical pap smears, anal pap smears are a thing. And once a year we do that. And so by understanding that, by looking inside, by doing the right testings, we're able to really mitigate the risk we spoke about.
Can you ask your doctor to do that?
You can.
Oh, okay.
A lot of primaries don't.
Okay.
Or they'll be like, yeah, you go in there and you could swab yourself. And then how many people really swab correctly? That's where a lot of the mail order stuff is an issue too. Because a lot of it is they're only doing a blood test to satisfy what they need to. They're not sending all the right stuff from an STD perspective. And there's so many people that swab themselves incorrectly. And then they come to the office like, I have anal pain and it's chlamydia. And they're like, oh, I just sent a test and it was negative. So I think I'm glad things are happening, but we have some ways to go. But I think a lot of it is just doing what you're doing, which is educating everybody so that you have the knowledge to know what's right and what's wrong.
Totally. Okay. Preparation for anal sex. What does that actually mean? Because I've heard all scales of things, right? Like, I love that we started talking about poop because that's also a thing that people are like, oh, I don't want poop. And I'm like, you're not walking around like almost shitting your pants. Right. Like, if you need to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. And then you're not going to, you know what I mean? Totally. So do you believe in douching? Like, what's the best structure if you're like, okay, we're going to do this. We've warmed up. We've learned our body. We've, tried some things and feel as if, maybe we're going to jump into this. Well, it's interesting. I have a douche company called Future Method. Awesome.
And I would love for people not to douche. Right. So I think the key for me was I meet people where they are. No matter what I say, if I tell you don't douche, you're still going to douche. So it's like, why don't we come up with a solution that makes sense? But let's bring it back first. I think don't clean yourself out when you're doing the anal dilators. So when you're doing toys yourself, do it right before you shower. Turn the shower on. I bet you 8 to 9 times out of 10, you're going to be clean if you're shitting correctly.
Okay.
And the pooping is what we spoke about. Like, you're right. If you feel like you got to go poop, go poop, right? Fiber, a lot of people do supplementation, pre and probiotics. Food, understanding that, if you're doing oils and fats, that causes, and carbs, causes bloating, it causes things to move, right? Caffeine, cigarettes, all these things, vapes are stimulants. So when people and they're like, oh, I'm never clean, it's really gut before butt. I talk about. So how do you first think about looking at what am I eating? When am I eating? Am I getting enough fiber? How do I bulk? But how do I get myself? A lot of people love Ozempic and the Wegovy's because it makes people constipated. And so the bottoms love it because not only do they feel great and look good, but it slows down the digestion, that the anal canal where run-of-the-mill anal sex is actually clean. So people can have much more spontaneous sex. So I think the key is you need to figure out you. So when you're doing the toys, don't douche, so that you could be like, oh, I'm actually cleaner than what I think. I also tell people in the beginning, if you've never douched or you're douching too much, like use the toys as like a toy test, like a litmus test of like, oh, I'm not actually dirty. Okay, instead of douching, let's say 6 times for like 45 minutes, can I just do 1 rinse and be comfortable with it?
Yeah.
If you're going to douche, it's less is more. So the products that are out there now, either water, or enemas, are very caustic to the inside of the rectum. They cause a significant amount of inflammation and irritation.
Yeah.
So when you look at like the microbiome, if you and I go to Nashville, like you guys were on the street, and we bend people over and we swab your asshole inside, I know who can take it up the ass because there's a bacteria called Provotella. This bacteria gets overgrown through douching, using water, enemas, water-based lubes. And what happens is the microbiome changes. Well, why does that fuck with us? Well, we know that if the microbiome changes, we know that there's a higher incidence of STDs, higher incidence of HIV, higher incidence of chlamydia, gonorrhea, etc., herpes, viruses, all these things. So the key is, well, how do we not fuck with the microbiome? Well, it's supplementing it, right? We're the first ever anal specific pre and probiotic that replenishes the anal microbiome. Also, not douching. Or if you are douching, how do you use a solution that makes sense? So we're the crystal light for your ass, basically. So what you do is it's a powdered formulation on purpose. When you look at store-bought enemas, they have a preservative system. That is what causes, and you see it more and more in a lot of the makeup that people are using, or the enemas, or the douches, or whatever. The preservatives is what fucks with the lining. So when you have a powder, you don't have that preservative. So if you put that into drinkable water, it will neutralize it. It will make it what's called isotonic, isoosmolar, which keeps it in a pH balanced perspective. And that's what's so interesting. A lot of people use wet wipes. Wet wipes are terrible for your hole. I know why you're using it, but it alters the good and the bad bacteria. And it causes a lot of yeast infections, a lot of herpes. So I think the key is with all of this is if you don't need to douche, don't douche. If you still want to douche, how do you use smaller bulbs? How do you understand the anatomy? Remember, we spoke of where poop was, right? That poop is not going to come, literally, not going to come into your ass. When you're having run-of-the-mill anal sex. I know you don't believe me, but the reality is that it's when you are douching, what you're doing is you're going way too high and you're actually eliciting a bowel movement. Think of, I just want to clean here, not there. So if you're using a shower hose or you're using a big bulb and you're like, oh, I'm just going to keep doing it. And it's the same thing. People are like, oh, I'm clean after the second rinse, but you know what? I'm going to do it one more time. And then that third time, it actually moves the shit that wouldn't have come. Also, people are laying down and doing it. Well, if you lay down, the water, whatever solution you're using, is going into the colon. And we don't want that. So I think, again, I don't love the name douching because it's like, you know what I'm saying?
I just think of like those like douche canoe dudes. Like I'm like, you're such a douche canoe. Like I just don't. Yeah.
I think it's like let's do like a gentle anal cleanse.
Yeah, that
or
sounds
like
nice.
a little irrigation in the space.
Yeah.
Deep play, fisting, that's a whole different, and we can talk about that. But I think you need to know your anatomy. You need to know the food you're taking. You need to know what, like, no offense to Chipotle, they're tasty, but if I have that, I'm not taking it up the ass. So like, what are those things that cause your issues? And less is more. If you're douching 5 times, try to go to 4 times. Use the toy. The toy is really great, the dilators, because not only does it show you that you're clean, it'll get rid of extra liquid, because sometimes people have extra liquid stuck in the nook and crannies. Also, it'll pre-dilate people, which I love, because many people are tighter in the beginning, and it'll lubricate you. So all those things, I think, just make you an empowered bottom, a knowledgeable bottom that allows you to figure out how to navigate, because it's complex.
So, like I said, TMI, I don't care. I'm just open book on here. I think that's why people like it. But I enjoy anal sex. I've had friends be like, you're crazy. There's no way. But I feel like the most comfortable dynamic for me is if I'm on top. I have already climaxed once.
Yeah.
And I'm still using some sort of a device clitorally.
Yeah.
And then I'm controlling the pace.
Totally.
So I just think the porn industry has almost ruined this dynamic for too many people.
Yeah, totally.
So if you were to pick, if someone was brand new and like wanted to try it and you wanted them to thoroughly, because I feel like slowly doing it and then you get past almost like this point and then it like, oh, this feels amazing.
Yeah.
So like,
I think that's totally right.
Yeah.
I mean, I usually tell people like our dilating protocol through Future Method is 4 dilators.
Yeah.
And they're, from the smallest to the largest. And it's usually about a 6 to 8 week program where even if you think you take bigger than the small, I don't want you to, because what it's doing is it's allowing you to understand and relax. It's also learning how to control those muscles. It's strengthening the skin too. So think of like when we're going to the gym, we get calluses from the bar. Well, by thinking of the toy and the dilator as a bar, it's creating collagen and really strong skin in that space. So most people will start with the small, 2 weeks. They'll do it just like going to the gym, 2 sets of 10 twice a week. And then what they'll do is you'll start with the small, then you'll go to the second size, and then you'll gradually progress. If you're not progressing, then we need to be like, well, why? Is there pain? Is there bleeding? And we talk a lot in the book or on our website of like things that you can do to try to keep going.
Yeah.
If you can't, then it's like, then you need to see somebody. Should we be doing physical therapy? Should we be doing anal Botox to relax the muscle? But let's say you went through everything. You're like the biggest, and you're like, it's fucking awesome. I feel great. And you want to get into sex. You're right. Most people, I would say, should use the dilators either during sex as foreplay, or right before they start to engage anally. It opens you up. It sets the stage for success. And then you on top is key. That's the way. Get them hard. Get the, whatever, even if you're getting pegged, whatever, you're going to be on top. Using the device, using the dick as a dilator. It's not sexy in the beginning.
No.
People are like, oh, it's really mechanical and medical, and I get it. But like, it will get sexy.
Yeah.
Once you start to kind of like really understand how you open, what feels good. And then like when you're using it, then it's like you could start to ride, you're in control. If you just give it to your partner, they're going to just smash it in. And it just sets the stage for you to be like, this sucks and I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. And then as in the book, we do a lot of sex positions like one peach, 2 peach, 3 peaches for like more advanced. Going to doggy, you're really submissive in that position. And most guys want to go to that the first, which is like, boom, in. That puts a lot of stress and strain on everything. So I think you're so right in understanding what works and what doesn't. And probably your first climax gets you so much more in a relaxed space, which just opens you in a way that allows for the anal penetration side.
Yeah, and I think just people don't have an education, right? And they just want to go, my husband calls it primal. They just want to go full tilt.
That's
primal,
right.
Like bend her over and just put it in her. And I'm like, that is the worst. If you want to enjoy anal sex in the future, that is the worst thing you could possibly do.
But I get it. Like it could be sexy.
Yeah.
But you have to like be able to take that without doing that. So if you can prove to yourself that like you can open and you could receive and you can do that correctly with that dick or that toy, then I'm totally fine with people. You know, a lot of people use drugs and chemsex and poppers and all that stuff. If you're using all that stuff to get relaxed, you're getting so fucked up that you don't feel pain.
It's scary too.
It becomes a problem.
Yeah.
And so the key is like, look, if it's your MO that you want to do this with this person, I'll support that. But how do we get you into a space that allows you to do it safely? Because that's the problem when things start to kind of not be in unison.
Yeah. So I'm so like, this is like the raised Mormon in me. Break it down. What's a popper? Like,
oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
like,
poppers are these things called, it's basically a drug that's called amyl nitrate.
Okay.
Now, poppers are used for, remember when we were growing up, the VHS, the big cassette tapes, right? So inside, there's a cleaner that you're supposed to use. The cleaner is amyl nitrate solution.
Okay.
And whoever started to sniff these cleaners realize that it opens your asshole.
what?
And it does. It's what's called a smooth muscle relaxant. So it's an inhalant. So it comes in these bottles. And it's this, it's like this huge industry that really shouldn't be, but there's a loophole that allows for like all these like 7-Elevens and all these places.
Is it legal?
It's legal.
Wow.
But it's only legal because they're being sold as this tape cleaner, but they're not. They're being used in this space. So what you do is you inhale, sniff it. And then what it'll do is it'll fuck with your sensorium. It has heart issues, especially with people on Viagra and Cialis, so you have to be careful. It has neurological potentials because you lose your sensorium, but it relaxes the asshole. So then people have really great sex.
Okay.
So then the thing for me is like there's so many other ways to get you into a better space. So we do a lot of work with the dilators and physical therapy, but anal Botox is a game changer, especially in the male space, because the muscles are so tight in the male pelvis where people just can't relax and enjoy anal, and they're in that group 2 to 3. So by giving anal Botox into that third muscle.
Okay. So you're up there.
About I'd say like 4 to 5 centimeters.
Is it externally you're doing it or internally?
So I'm doing it internally through that camera. It's called the anoscope.
Okay.
So it's a small device, I'd say about this big, that goes inside, and there's a light that shines in, and then you literally isolate that third muscle. And then I give 4 injections. So think of it like at 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
It doesn't make people incontinent. A lot of people think, oh, am I going to shit on the street?
Yeah.
It's not like that. It doesn't freeze. The muscle is so thick, and you have so much pelvic floor in that space. So by giving it, it decreases the pressure about what's called 15 millimeters of mercury, which brings people from this like too tight space into the normal range, so that now when you're dilating, you can actually be effective in opening up that rubber band. It lasts for about 3 months.
Yeah.
Most people don't do it forever. They usually do about 2 to 3 sessions. And then they're finally using toys and having sex that they don't need it again. But it's a game changer. I use it so much for after surgery. Like I do it during surgery so that during recovery, because anal surgery, I mean, it's a fucking pain in the ass.
I was in so much pain. It's such a pain in the ass. I was in so much pain with the hemorrhoid that I actually felt relieved in recovery.
Oh my God.
That's how uncomfortable I was.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So like people are like, oh, is it bad? I'm like, no, I would rather have this than what I had.
Wow. Which is common. Some people with fissures and tears,
Yeah.
once I clean that out and get them healthy, they're like, oh my God, I've been shitting in so much worse than that. But for a majority of people with the hemorrhoids, it's quite fucking painful.
Yeah.
But by giving Botox during surgery, by decreasing the pressure, people can have better recoveries, better poop. And then obviously it allows for people to get back into anal in a really good way. So it's a game changer.
Did you just think of that one day? Or
No,
is it like out there? Like,
it's-
I'm like, this is, and it makes sense too, because like people get it in their jaw.
That's right. People get
right?
TMJ.
And it's not like your mouth is like wide open,
Yeah,
right? It
totally.
just helps
gives
with
you
that.
relaxation. People were using it a lot for anal fissures as a management for treating that. The normal management is to cut muscle. But it's quite invasive, and many people don't need to cut muscle. They can just do Botox or even dilating and work that muscle to get it more relaxed. But Botox has been around for a while. And then I remember 18 years ago when I was with one of my urologist friends, like, Evan, just fucking start putting up Botox in the ass. Let's just see what happens. And I was like, all right, fuck it. And then we started to see, and it was like game changer.
Wow.
Because there's so many people that are born wanting to receive, but physically or mentally, they just can't.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do a lot in the office of like, how do we analyze the ass? How do we analyze psychologically and neurologically, how are you connected? And then kind of create a pathway to get you to where you want to be. Because at the end of the day, if you want something up your ass, like, you should have it. You know, you should be able to do what you want.
Totally.
Yeah.
I could go all day with you. This is the problem. We're going to have to do this like 14 more times because there's so much.
So much. It's
so
crazy.
much. So I want to ask you this.
Yeah.
Because I'm in Utah, you're in New York.
Yeah.
So like, do you do like telehealth dynamics?
Yeah, I do a lot of telehealth stuff.
Okay.
People can find me on Instagram. It's Dr. Evan Goldstein. My two brands, Bespoke Surgical is the practice, and then Future Method is the brand with kind of the dilators and the cones and the toys and everything to get you, plus the douching. That's at the Future Method. But I do a lot of telemedicine. People send me their whole pics all the time. You fucking want to send me your whole pic, it's fine.
Send it.
And then, I do a lot of work with aesthetics too.
Okay.
I bridge kind of plastic surgery with anal. People care how it looks. People care how it feels. People care in that capacity. So we do a lot of work with, just removal of things if it was an aesthetic issue or a functional component. We do a lot of work with bleaching, butt facials. Maybe when you're in New York, we'll have to.
Dude, the bleaching thing, I didn't even. So all this stuff on the market, is it just garb?
No, it depends. I think, the problem with the cream stuff is you constantly have to use it because the epithelia, the skin constantly replenishes. So we do a lot of work with like peels that give you the longevity.
Oh, yeah.
So definitely things work.
Yeah.
It's just an element of, what you want.
And it's weird because this is TMI, but hey mom, whatever. Like after having my daughter, it changed significantly.
Yeah.
The color.
The coloring. A lot of it is, it's where the sun doesn't shine, In Utah, you should get out there and just fucking open your hole. That's the new thing. I mean, everyone's doing anal sunning everywhere. Think about it though. It's like people even aren't taught like to shower at night. A lot of people shower in the morning and then they shit all day and they're sweaty and then they come to me and they're like, oh, it's irritated. So it's like simple things of like nighttime showering, sleeping naked, letting it breathe after you're in the pool or the ocean. Like, don't just sit around in your, it's like a lot of things that women do naturally because they understand vaginally that they're going to have issues. A lot of it is also apropos anally. So
interesting.
It's not all about butt sex.
It's not all about butt sex.
It should be.
We all need a healthy.
It should be.
It should be. It should be. So if I know we're here at like a B2B conference and I've learned so much. Like if I want to like connect with your team and be able to have stuff on my website and stuff, that's possible.
Totally. Let's do it.
Awesome.
Yeah, we love it.
Well, stay tuned, guys, because you can get all the goods.
Oh, thank you so much. This was
awesome.
awesome.
He'll be back and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.